Welcome to the Build Better Blueprint, the podcast where we discuss the foundations of real estate, entrepreneurship, and personal growth. Join Christian Cardamone as he shares insights, strategies, and stories that will empower you to level up your business, your lifestyle, and your impact. Let's build a better blueprint for success, starting now.
Hey, this is Christian Cardamone. This is the Build Better Blueprint. Thanks for tuning in today. I've got a special guest for you today, Mr. Kelly Jennings. Kelly is another Wilmington local, and we're looking forward to getting together soon, meet in person. This is a virtual meeting, and we're going to introduce him to you, tell you a little about his background. He was in law enforcement for 15 years, and about 5 years ago, decided to enter the wonderful world of real estate, mortgages, and investing. And we're here to spend some time learning about Kelly. So Kelly, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you for the opportunity, man. I'm excited to be here. Hey, I love that you use the term local. I use that, but I actually take it deeper and I'm like, man, I am indigenous, right? I forget where you went to high school. I went to spec daycare, like back in the early 80s. So I'm super local. I remember it when College Road was 1 lane north and 1 lane south. So yeah, I take pride in saying that I'm a Wilmington original here.
Oh, wow, dude. Well, before I get into that then, because I moved here in 96 and I thought I was like the closest thing to a local because that was a long time ago. So you've been here even
Came
way.
in 85. Yeah, we came here in 85.
Here, the original gangster, ladies and gentlemen, Kelly Jennings. I love it, man. Well, listen, dude. So why don't you lead us off? Tell us a little bit about yourself. We just heard where you started, but you've got a very interesting story. So tell us kind of what led you into this current path, the greatest industry in the world, and let's dig in.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, man, presently licensed mortgage originator, right? Working here locally in Wilmington. This is year number 5. And, I kind of made the transition later in life. I was about 40 years old when I was like, I'm going to do something completely different. Previous to that, I was in law enforcement for 15 years and give and take, right? I say it's a good job to have had. No way in the world I would have gotten it a long time ago if I could have just made the decision-making processes that I can make now. But looking back on it, I had a good career. I spent maybe like 8 years in patrol. I spent 4 years in narcotics. I was on our SWAT team for about 6.5 years. And then I spent 3.5 years as the title is called task force officer, or it's government contractor, working with the U.S. Marshal Service on the fugitive task force. So I really had an exciting career. I had a lot of good memories. I had a lot of good stories, but I'm glad to be done with it, over with it. And it no longer served me. I got to a point where I said, I just can't do this anymore. I was burning it at both ends. And in 2020, it was a really ugly time for law enforcement. And at that point, I was working kind of 2 jobs at once. I was a full-time U.S. Marshals Task Force officer. About a year before that, I had a partner and they had removed my partner. And it really put all the work on me, especially when I had like 5 murder warrants that I'm trying to work at the same time. And then I was pulling double duty with Wilmington SWAT, working maybe like 2 operations a week with them. So I was like 14, 16-hour days. I was wearing really heavy kit just for years. My body was starting to take a toll. My life was starting to take a toll. I was probably getting called out at 3 a.m, twice a week. And that meant I was getting up, leaving and going somewhere. And one day I was at the beach and I looked at this house and I was like, man, it's a cool looking house. It'd be so cool if I could have that. And I tried to run the numbers of how much overtime I would have to work as a police officer. And it was an impossible number. I was like, I could never, ever do. There's not enough hours to trade my time for. And then COVID hits. And I was like one of the very first people to get COVID, like one of the very first.
Oh, you physically caught it first?
Yeah, like right when like no one knew about it and they were doing like the quarantine stuff.
Dude,
And
you are the original gangster, Wilmington and COVID. I love it.
yeah. And I had got it on a training. We were going to do some explosives training out in a different state, and I got it from the guy I rode with. And I was at that kind of time like thinking like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not enjoying coming to work. And then they put me on like a 10-day lockdown at my house. And I called the guy I did my last mortgage with, and I was like, man, I think I might want to do what you do. What should I do? And he's like, well, the course is like 10 days long. And I was like, bro, I got 10 days.
Perfect
I
timing.
got 10 days with nothing to do. So he sent me a link. I signed up. And while I was sitting there on my couch, I took the mortgage origination course. And then, a little bit after that, I started saying like, okay, well, where do I want to work? And I interviewed a few places and I was still in law enforcement. And then like, I had already made my mind up that I was ready to leave. And then one night after I'd already taken the test, I get another call, 3 a.m. hey, we got a barricaded subject inside Creekwood, which is a housing complex.
Oh, yeah.
He's already fired at deputies. So we have a SWAT call out. So we go out there. Everyone's still kind of waking up because it's tired, wearing heavy stuff, and slow process, hours into it. We start very slowly clearing this house, first with a robot, then physically using I use a breacher pole when I do things, so I stay away. And the guy takes a pot shot, really at me, through a closed door, misses. And we're like, okay, cool, we'll evacuate, turn to a gas plan. So we start, destroying part of the structure, gassing the house. And then it was like 8 hours into that event. I'm wearing a gas mask, a comm set, a headset. I'm keeping munitions launcher up for 8 hours. And I was like, I'm done. I'm out. Like, it wasn't the fact of what happened. I was like, I'm sick of this. And let me put these numbers in perspective for you. My hazard pay for that was $100. My overtime that I got for that operation for being called out was $360. So just kind of let that settle in. And a $52,000 a year salary. And
Jeez,
I told at the time my fiance, I was like, this is it. Like, I'm applying, I'm taking a job. So I ended up getting a job at Angel Oak. And as soon as I got it, I was like, okay, I'm scared, right? In a commission job, how am I going to support myself if this doesn't work?
it's
And
ironic that you're scared of that. However, like a week before, someone like physically shot at you. That's
I was scared then. I was scared on every operation. I was afraid that I would get someone hurt or that I would get myself hurt. I'm afraid on every loan right now that I'll disappoint my partners. So I do them so obsessively because of that. And so I was like, all right, well, here are my decisions. This will work or I'll foreclose and become homeless. Forced dichotomy. So I turned in my resignation and then I got some marijuana edibles and I took them. And I said, that disqualifies me from coming back. Like, I burned that bridge. I was
oh, that
like,
was like you burning the boats, literally.
yes.
Amazing.
Yep. And I was like, that's it. Like, it's got to work. Like, it just, like, pray that this works. And it did. Um, that was back at the very end of 2020. And yet I'm still here. It's kind of my intro into this career.
Dude, I love that. That is like, for a former SWAT guy, that's you effectively like kicking the door into your new life and new industry just by virtue of like, this is the only path now. I love that. The edible story too, because you go from, legal to, even though it's probably legal now at some point, some way, shape or form, but that's an amazing like turn. And then you're off to the race.
That is the only way to truly commit to something. Like, if you give yourself a way back, you will take that way back. And I was like, I'm not coming back, man. I'll go dig a ditch if this doesn't work, but I'm not going back to that life anymore.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And that's, it's a big discussion point. Some folks have the mindset of like, burn the boats. Success is the only path. And then some folks do like to have that kind of safety net. And the argument could be made either way, whether that safety net could prohibit you from hitting your full potential because
Yep.
you always know you have it. But I guess everyone's got their own kind of mental way to deal with that. And so, that kind of leads me to my next question, because everybody, you've been successful in this 5 years is a testament to someone who knows what they're doing, is at that point a professional. The attrition in your industry and mine as a broker is usually people are out either in 2 to 3 months or 12 to 14. There's that like threshold. And then after that, after year 2, you're pretty much salty because you've learned how to either generate the income or how to manage money effectively through the peaks and valleys of a commission-based structure. So, like I said, every successful person follows some sort of blueprint. Did you have this mapped out, and did you have kind of some key steps or like a strategy, or was it like, let's just take the first step and let's start moving in that direction?
Well, it evolved. So the benefit I had was I made the change. I was almost 40. I was 39, about to turn 40. So I had lived some life and I had a little bit of, common sense to me at the point. And my first 2 years, I knew that it would be really, really tough. And so my mentality was survival. That was all it was, is I make it through 2. And like you said, yes, I pirated big months. I pirate the money. I hold it, I hide it, and then I use it when I need it. And then once I got through 2 years, I was like, survival mentality is not what will bring me anything. I'm here now to hunt, right? No more just hoping it works. Now I'm actually going out and I'm chasing. But I was really directionless. I was efficient. I was doing something, but I wasn't effective. The things that I were doing did not bring me any results. I was just doing and wasting. One thing that I did have going for me was I had self-awareness, and it's always better than my self-confidence. And here's my greatest pitch to myself, which is a terrible pitch. Okay. I'm not very smart. I'm not athletic at all. I am slow to learn, and I'm the last person to catch on. Always have been. I've known that all my life. But what I do is I know that I can adjust. I know I can take a punch. I know I can outlast, outwork, and outlearn most people around me. And if that means I need to start earlier and stay later or pay for more that other people are not doing, I will. And to develop a system and a process, I had to figure something out. And I went through so many, and it's funny you say blueprint. Today, it's actually called Blueprint. And this is what I use. I have one for each week. And it is a boring system and process that I go through methodically every day that I need to work through. And, there's some flexibility to it. And there's some things that are not flexible on it as well. But developing that and continuing to develop it, and I still continue to develop it based on what's working and what's not and what's new to me right now as well.
Yeah. Well, you probably should give yourself some credit, because in reality, the folks that are the most successful and live the longest are the ones who are the most adaptable. So that's really, if you're not the best in sports, I'm not the best in sports, but the folks that can pivot, that can recognize, and self-awareness, in my opinion, and I think in the business just kind of arena, that's probably one of the most valuable assets that you have. As I would call you an entrepreneur, because you're a small business owner working essentially as a 1099 contractor in this industry. So when you have to go and kill what you eat, that's a very attractive characteristic. And I think that's probably attributed to your success. So, when you are successful, we can agree on that. That doesn't come though without like setbacks. So have you had a point in time where you're like, dude, I want to go back to patrol, even though it wasn't an option?
I never said go back to patrol, but I use Costco. I was like, I'm going to go be a cashier at Costco, man. You know why? They're happy. They're always smiling. They're never upset. Oh yes, absolutely. Whenever failure. So here's the thing about failure. If you go into something thinking like, man, there's no way I'm going to mess it up. Like it's not going to work out well. You got to go into it saying like, we're going to get a little ugly in this. It's going to get nasty, and that's good. We like it. That means pull back, reevaluate, look at your system, your process. You're doing something wrong and figure it out. I know a lot of really successful people. None of them have a perfect record. Like none of them do. Tom Brady has 7 Super Bowls, but he's thrown a lot of interceptions over his course of his career too. He's also got 7 Super Bowl rings, but you don't get to those without doing a few things wrong and learning and going back and reevaluating. It's kind of like, failure is only a bad thing if you don't learn from it. And you can make a resume out of failure. So when I actually applied to Wilmington Police, they were like, why should we hire you? And I was like, let me tell you all the dumb stuff I did at my last agency, because it was my second agency. And they're like, why would you even tell us that? And I was like, because everyone's going to do it. I did it with the other guy and I got it out of the way. You're getting me now learned on the other side of this.
Yeah.
And they were like, that's actually a good point, man. And so, so like my very third loan worked. And I didn't know anything, right? Like they threw me in. This was during COVID. You're drinking from a waterfall. And I was holding on, survival mode. And we closed a day late. And it wasn't a big deal. It was the guy's second home. He wasn't moving in. It wasn't a U-Haul. It wasn't a Domino's closing. That point, I was like, I wanted to quit after that. And never since then have I missed a closing date, right? But my very third loan, I missed it by 1 day. And I was like, I'm obviously doing something wrong. What am I doing wrong? Over the course of time, this manifesto has developed that prevents anything wrong from being done, because it's very simple. If it's not checked, crossed, and highlighted, it needs to be done or has been done. It was important. I'm glad I got that out of the way early. I'm glad nobody lost any money. And since then, again, has not happened. But if it wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't have been forced to pull back and say, all right, some things need to change. Something needs to be in place. What is it that I could develop to make sure that what happened never happens again? And now it's, not just what with me, but I'm always listening. I listen to what is going on with other loan officers. I'm like, all right, let me make a mental note that I need to be on the lookout for, this gotcha that can exist on everything.
Yeah.
Because they're always out there.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's cool that you recognize that, though. I think I read this morning, it was a quote from a book I read a long time ago. I think it might have been like Rocket Fuel or one of those, but they said something about, you don't rise to the level of your dreams, you fall to levels of your systems. I think something to that effect. And so that you took that experience, which was basically almost a travesty, closing 24 hours late, man. I can't believe, that must have been.
Well, the borrower was furious. He was super high strung, but he was like, you would have thought I insulted his daughter because
Yeah.
of it.
I mean, 24 hours is like, we're laughing because in this industry, it's so common for 1 to 3 to 5, delays happen, life happens. But when you're waiting on banks and lenders and there's 10 moving, parts in a transaction, it's very common. So it sounds like you took that to heart though, and you learned from it. And even though it was a very minor infraction, it got you on a very straight and narrow path, which I think is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I like a good boring path. I
Yeah.
like a good boring life.
Yeah. Well, that's funny, man. Well, so let me ask you this question. Do you have a coach or a mentor that helped you in this? Are you a part of any groups? I'm interested as to your having come from the law enforcement. Obviously, you guys have mentors and folks that teach you and train you and help lead you. Do you have someone like that? And what's your thought process around that in your industry now?
I am the biggest advocate for it. Yeah, so in law enforcement, so when I was on SWAT team, we would once a year hire like someone to come in and teach us like for a week. And typically it was like a competition shooter or maybe someone from like a military background to teach like small tactics, etc. And when presently now I do have a coach. I subscribe. His name's Dustin Owen, and he's got 5 adjunct instructors. 2 of them I follow every one of their courses. The other 3, they just weren't my people. There's different styles, and
Yeah,
they're good
totally.
at what they do. But yes, and the 2 that I follow, they're both $50 million a year producers. One of them, I was actually speaking, Brian, I was talking to him about 11 o'clock last night. He saw I was online working on something, reached out to me. But the coaching program, what I like about that one is, and there's a lot of different ones, same as there are in your industry. This one is not like yell at you and give you homework, call 40 realtors a week. This is find a way to provide true value, but then at the same point, establish a community in that, a coaching community. So for instance, like we've got a forum that the coaching students can come on and ask a question, and then other students can chime in and answer. Or like if I'm not licensed on something that's in a different state, hey, anybody work this state? And I could refer out as well. But yeah, I probably do about 2 coaching calls a week, and I will never not have a coach in this business again. And in life in general. So I have a nutritionist. I don't see her every week anymore. I did when we first started, but I eat the same thing every day for the last 5 years. So I don't need to see her until I change something. Do a lot of physical fitness exercise. And in one of the sports I train in, I hire a coach. Every quarter, I hire someone to do 3 one-on-ones with me. And I call it steroids on whatever I'm doing, right? So like a one-on-one with this coach for an hour is 5 of his classes. And if I do 3 to 4 of those a quarter with them, then it catches me up because again, I'm slowest to learn, last to learn. So I will take it upon myself, spend my money, spend my time to do what's necessary to outlast and outcompete who I need to.
Dude, that's awesome. And if you won't invest in yourself, then why would anyone else invest in you? That's such a testament to continually developing yourself and learning. I think that's awesome because I'm like you, man. I will probably never not have a coach. And in anything that I struggle in, there's always someone who has been down that road. There's nothing new under the sun, right? So if I'm having an issue with something, I can just reach out to somebody who's been there before and get some advice and some mentorship or some leadership. And it seems like I just wish more people would buy into that, because a lot of folks, and you do need to be wary. Like you said, there's a lot of personalities out there that may or may not jive with your style. And some folks are not really selling coaching or mentorship. They're selling just a product, but it's incumbent on you to do your homework. But I love that you're so invested, like just in that in general, because that, you're speaking my language, man. And daily habits and mindset are so important when it comes to having a coach, because you have to implement these. Like you said, you eat the same thing all the time because you had a nutritionist. Like success is not boring, but you're very physically fit because of the regimen you put in place. So what other like non-negotiables do you have, or daily habits, or kind of behaviors do you have that you think lead to your success right now?
Yeah. And I'll tell you this, weekends, all bets are off. All bets are off on
This
this.
is Monday through Friday only, Kelly.
It is.
Yeah.
So side story on the habits and the nutrition part. So when I was structuring it, my nutrition, she's like, listen, you can't deal with moderation. You strict, and then you go to the other end. So Fridays, me and my wife, and on about Wednesdays, we start talking about this. And Friday, she uses the same nutritionist I do, and we're clean through the week. And Fridays, just hardcore. And typically, so like tonight, I can tell you what we've already discussed. We've already got it. It's a large pizza, about 6 beers, order of wings, an entire bag of gummy worms, and 2 pints of ice cream are on
Get
deck
it.
for tonight.
Get it, dude. I hear you.
Yep. And it's all out until it's sick. And it's like, oh, this was a terrible idea. This was so bad. And then about Wednesday, it's like, man, what about like a great American cookie from the mall, like for Friday, for that.
Yeah.
So I dial it down on the weekends. But yeah, so a couple of mine, 5:15, I got to be up in the morning. All right. I want to be up before the sun comes up. And I got to get a few things in check with me. So the first thing, I got to get my soul in check. So 30 minutes, spending faith time, isolated, no distractions, get my heart and soul right. Next thing is workout before I eat. That workout varies. I train my strength training and I train at the jiu-jitsu gym as well. So typically I want to be in there at 7 a.m. for about an hour to an hour and a half. And then after that, my day kind of proceeds back to work. And as far as work goes, I do have some non-negotiables, but I do allow them to get subordinated if something is exigent and urgent. Like today, I did not go to the gym and my negotiables did not happen because one of my partners is absolutely on fire and has 6 offers under contract in 10 days. And those needed immediate attention. So I was like, that needs to happen right now. So I started work, but I said the gym will just have to just suck it up and miss. But typically for work, the very first things I do are I'm going to come in, I'm going to make one social media post. And I have to, not because I like social media, because I need to be social proof. When I meet a borrower or I meet a real estate agent, the very first thing they're going to do is, who is this person? And they're going to go look at me. And I have a target market. I do VA loans is 80% of what I do. And overlapping in VA loans are first-time home buyers. There's other stuff I will do. I'll do an investment loan. I'll do a DSCR Airbnb. I'll do one, but it's about 1% of what my market is. So I'm going to put something that tells my market, hey, I am your guy. I speak your language, and I am doing something that you can come vet me to see that I have mastery in what I do and that I am someone that you can relate to. And then I'm going to make a certain amount of comments on certain posts so that I can affect algorithms on Facebook, which is part of the thing I need to do. And I'm going to go through and see, does anyone have a birthday that I need to reach out to or a home anniversary? And I'm going to send those first. That's my non-negotiables. There are a few things that are now second tier that I'll start to work on as well, like maybe send a card, a few phone calls I would have to make, and a couple just tedious items. But outside of that, it would be working my loan and then trying to actually have a face-to-face with someone during the day. Boring.
Nice.
It's the same thing every day. The gym is the same thing every day. But, I use the metaphor if you want to hammer on a rock for 100 times, it takes the 100th hit to break it. It seems like you're not doing anything. And like I go to the gym every day. I'm like, I don't look any different today. But after 2 years of doing it, or now after 27 years of doing it, the results will come out. It just kind of goes, and then it will shoot up at a certain point. So I just have faith and confidence that what I'm doing every day is going to pay off in about 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, that's it, man. We're all farmers. You got to plant the seeds and then tend to them, and then they will yield the crops. It's in anything worth doing like that. Delayed gratification is generally a big piece of that. The things that come fast and easy, it's for a reason a lot of times. So I applaud your discipline, man, because those are getting up early. I never did that like forever. And just in the last couple of years, I started doing it, and my life has changed significantly with just the most simple, rudimentary practice of just getting up early, and like, it frustrates me because I just think of how much further I could have gone had I just done something that simple. But 99% of your problems will be solved just by getting up at 6, 7 in the morning and just getting stuff done, getting the hard things done first, getting the exercise done, getting some of the non-negotiables done, getting your head right. You check those boxes, and the rest of the day is it's go time. Okay. Yeah, man. It's a great way to start with a lot of gratitude, checking the boxes, and you're like stacking wins as you go, and so it's that momentum. I think it's awesome, man. So I love that you're so involved in that. Tell me about like what you're working on like right now, where your business is headed in the next couple of years. Is the goal to stay lockstep with VA, with serving the veterans? Is that's kind of your vein, and you want to continue to be a specialist in that? Do you have aspirations to start your own firm or bank or something like that down the road?
So I would never want to start my own anything. My mentality on that is the innovators. Only about 1% of an innovator is going to make it come out. 99% of them, they're going to fail. And that 1%, yeah, they're going to be amazingly successful, but they're going to take so much risk and liability. So I just want to be a fast follower. I want to be one of the quicker adaptations that picks up. And that's the perfect life for me. Business goals, 25 million in production is my goal for this year.
Awesome.
And it's a hefty goal, but it is reasonable. It is attainable. After I do that, maybe build a team following year. Might bring one person on underneath me. But my everyday goal and short-term goals is build better and deeper relationships, actually with fewer people. And you're a real estate agent, you could agree. There are real estate agents out here that are part-time, that don't take it very seriously. And there are ones that go out and eat and kill every day. And I want to build with the ones that eat and kill every day because that is how I am. And I feed off of that. And I think that we could grow together and, trade ideas, two coached people come together and can grow together. So I'm looking for good partners, not a lot of partners, but just solid partners that I could pour into and watch them develop and be a resource for them as we really go out there and take this thing on together. Personal goals, man, I don't say possessions. I have possessions, but they're all utility to me. I have a truck filled with shit right now, right? The back of it is because I have a house and we love stuff. So I don't buy nice things like that. Do I have guns? Only ones that I can carry. I don't have a safe full of them. If it doesn't serve me where I can put it on, I don't need it. I like experiences, man. We like to travel. We are big into going places and doing things and, like bucket list type items. I mean, you saw my thing with the sharks. That was a big deal for me. That was a big
That's
one.
awesome. Yeah. Where was that?
I won't do it again. My wife freaked out about it. You talk about things that are scary, that's scary. But I'm a big Shark Week fan. We both are. And we love the guy, Andy Casagrande, on there. He's on like 3 episodes a year. I made contact with him. He wrote back. I told him I wanted to go see a great white person. He was like, man, right now, like the only place to go is, like Australia. And then he hit me back and he's like, hey, I'm actually going to take like a small group of tiger shark diving, open water. And I was like, I don't have dive certification. So I found a woman here in Wilmington. She was 78 years old. She's a PADI instructor, got certified in a pool and then a lake. Never been in the ocean. Reached back out to Andy. I was like, hey, bro, like I'll do it. But just so you know, like first dive, he's like, we're going to have some good safety divers. Don't worry about it. Yeah. So I fly out to the Bahamas, meet him. He booked a safety crew that was like top notch in the world. I got to pay for the stuff, right? Like you're paying for it.
Well, you don't want to skimp on something like this though either. So
here's that, right? I don't know anything. And I did not tell my wife this. We get on the boat, they take us out, and then we have a safety briefing. I've had some pretty intense safety briefings through the U.S. Marshal Service and narcotics and SWAT. This one was intense. And they were like, look, we are very good. We have never had an incident, but there have been 2 divers killed here in the last 6 months. They're like, so we are going to give you a clear set of instructions. If you want to get bit, this is how you will do it. If you do not want to get bit, this is what you will do. I was like, I'm going to do the second option, right?
Yeah, I think that.
And it was great. I had a GoPro. My wife got me one. So I got a lot of great underwater video. But seeing, an 8 to 10 foot apex predator in person at about 2 arms length from you, it was a hell of an experience. I won't do it again. But I did 3 total dives with them. And I was like, all right, I'm good, I think, after that.
Dude, that's insane. I love that story because I saw that picture and I was like, this guy ain't fucking around. Like I used to run a dive boat and I dove I think it was the Hyde is a wreck about 20 miles offshore here. We used to dive that all the time. And I thought I was like hot shit looking at like sandbar sharks.
Sand tigers, yeah.
I'm like, I like sand tiger sharks and they look terrifying, but they're not a tiger shark. They're like puppies compared to those things. And I was spearfishing one day and saw a hammerhead while I was doing my safety stop, a monster hammerhead. I saw it on the GoPro when we got back the next day looking at the footage. It was just, I didn't see it when I was in the water, but it was just circling around some mahi on the surface. And part of me wishes I saw it in real life, but then I probably would have had maybe a brownout in the water had I done it. So I applaud you having voluntarily gone do that. That's freaking crazy. Awesome.
It'll be a good story for later in the years. It's really funny how it puts you in perspective because, there were about 150 sharks, right? And there were some bull sharks are always so scary. Oh, there was bull sharks 5 feet off from me. I was like, I don't care. Like I need to focus on this tiger that's like 8 feet from me right now and make sure, I'm keeping like a little bit of distance between us. And then the reef sharks, I mean, they'll swim over and like graze your head as they're swimming over you. And you're just like, whatever, like they're just there.
Dude, that is insane. So it's pretty obvious that you are a risk taker. I love random question. You said 78-year-old dive instructor. Was her name Julep?
Janice.
Janice.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry, Janet Montrose. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. I worked with a lady named Julep. I don't think she was that old, but she was awesome. Like a super salty diver way back in the day, man. And have you been diving lately, or do you still do that?
I did the hive once after, and it got a little scary. I didn't do a great equipment inspection, and my inflator tube was absolutely severed, and I just sunk and couldn't inflate, and I actually had to drop weights and swim back to the surface, and I was just pissing out air. And when they're like, "We need to head back at 1,500 pounds," I was like, "I'm at 800,
Yeah.
and I'm
Time to go.
stuck on the bottom." And I was like, "All right, I don't think this is my thing." Plus, it's like it's an expensive hobby, and then to get there, it's a terrible ride and sitting, and you're like no one enjoyed. You might, but like everyone's sick before and after, and I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, it's dude, diving here is some of the best in the world, but it's also some of the most challenging because yeah, like we had a 41-foot Newton dive boat. It took us 2 hours to get out there. And on a rough day,
Yeah,
dude, you get beat. By the time you get there, you're like, everyone's green,
yeah,
it's like, and then when you're done coming back after that, it's like such a taxing. I don't think I've ever slept as hard as I did getting home those afternoons at like 3. I was like wiped. I can't even, I'm getting tired just thinking about it, but that's awesome, man. So listen, I want to be mindful of your time. Tell me, you're obviously, the financial aspect of this industry is so important, and this is how markets move and react to the Fed and the interest rates and stuff like that. Where do you see some of the biggest opportunities and risks in today's market? I say that because you have the ability to see farther down the line than your average bear when it comes to this. We had loans back in 2007, 2008 that really were the catalyst into the market crash. So I'm curious to hear your insight on where you see opportunities and possibly risks.
yeah. So, and I was not in the market in '08. Now I know the stories. Actually, I wanted to treat this as a craft, so I talked to people that were in it. We have some people in our office that were there. I did research. I listened to all the podcasts, stories, read some books. We'll never have that happen again. That happened because of predatory lending, and really just things that you should have never been allowed to do. That, like, when they say this is how we used to do loans, I was like, were you out of your mind? Like, there was like no common sense to that.
I know, it's insane looking back on it.
There was the regulations in this industry now. It is overly regulated, like to a point that it could lighten up a little bit and it would be fine. But they're keeping it very tight, and they're probably going to keep it tight for a long time. There's talks about, like, well, what about the news right now? They're getting rid of the CFPB potentially, which is kind of like the police. Well, you still have state monitoring, right? That's just federal oversight. There is still state oversight. You just default back to the state rules, which is really kind of the same thing as the federal ones. When it comes to like, where do I think this is going? So for me, I will do any loan. I will do some weird ones. I've done some weird ones. I've done some like DSCR into LLC loans, and those are niche products. And there are people that say riches are in the niches. I disagree. My coach disagrees. He says, actually, niches are for the bitches. He said, your meat and potato loans are where you make your money. And if we look at a national survey, conventional loans dominate all the United States. After that, it's FHA, then it's VA, then it's down payment assistance, then it's construction to perm. Then you start to get into your bank statement, your DSCR loans, things like that. And if I look at it from my perspective, I only do 1 to 2 of those niche loans a year, but I do a lot of first-time home buyers and a lot of VA buyers. And people are going to continue to age in life and get to where they can buy a home, and they will continue to repurpose themselves. We have a military base about an hour away, and people will continue to get orders to it and orders away from it. And those are 2 markets that will always continue to come back and give you more in big chunks.
Yeah, totally.
People that do weird stuff of like, I need out of this hard money loan using short-term rental income, using a 12-month look back, those are few and far between. If you can dominate that market, awesome. But I'm looking at where I'm going to eat the most, and that is VA loans and first-time home buyers.
Yeah. Well, I would argue that that's your niche. Niche doesn't have to be huge, but that's your area of expertise, and that's where you've decided to focus on. That's awesome. I agree with you. I think the DSCR market, a lot of that stuff with the, I guess, contraction of the short-term rental occupancy in our market and kind of nationwide, like that's cooled down, dude. I wouldn't say that ship has sailed, but that's definitely that was a situation where people were just going bonkers buying those things left and right because Airbnb was just going to the moon. And we've definitely had a correction in that space. And so DSCR used to be like the buzzword. And now, yeah, folks are, because nothing pencils out for debt service coverage anymore in our current climate.
It's hard.
You know?
It's really hard. My target number, I say, is if you're going to do something like that, like it's minimum 35% equity into that. So you either got to get 35% under market or put 35% down, or you have owned it a long time ago where it's appreciated. And that's just your break even. If you're going to go try and buy that on market value and then rent it on market, you'll never make $1 on it.
Yeah. And that's important to say that, because when you say the key word in that sentence is break even, and most folks don't buy real estate to break even. They buy that's speculating if you're buying at break even, because you're hoping that the market's going to get better. But if you want to buy an investment, then it needs to perform by definition. So you want to have that spread. So yeah, it's an interesting time, man, to see the ebbs and flows of the market, and the rates seem like they've been like ticking down a little bit. I know there was a lot of forecasting that they would have come down sooner when the Fed moved a little bit last fall. Didn't seem to move the needle enough, but hopefully with the new administration, like them or not, we know that they like real estate. And so we'll see. I was listening in the car on the way down here, actually, to a podcast, and they said that in recessions, whether we're going into one or not is debatable. But when we are in them, often the rates do come down to stimulate economic growth. And sometimes rents have been going up last year higher than home prices. So it's kind of a unique circumstance. Everything is still kind of within reach right now, but it'll be interesting to see if something starts to move farther away. As far becoming a home buyer now is becoming more and more of a challenge in our market. I mean, you having been here since 85, the home price, obviously that was a lifetime ago, but what are home prices here in Wilmington right now versus where they were 5-10 years ago is like, it's just been an astronomical increase, right?
We're in our second home that we have now. We kept our previous, put a tenant in it, but we were nervous. We're like, we are ticking away from this divide of getting priced out. And like, we're in a good spot, but where we wanted to be in Wilmington, like we just kept watching. And it's like, my gosh, like, I mean, it's about 3.66% year over year is the average appreciation that compounds. And that's a lot of people's incomes don't keep up with that appreciation. The longer they wait, that divide of ever having that where they want it just gets further and further away. And we were like, we got to get one this year. And I mean, thank God we got the one we got. And it's great. And we love it. We're staying in it forever. And we'll get another one at some point, but not to live in. It's vastly moving apart from the people that live here.
Yeah, it's great for business, but it's sad. It's just like a small town just growing up. Really, that's kind of what the story is that I'm seeing. Is the secret's out, and it's a wonderful place to live and do business in. So I'm thankful to be a part of it. But I can see it getting more and more challenging for folks to participate in. But it is what it is, dude. So final thoughts, wisdom from you. You've been to the bottom of the ocean. You've been to the back of the SWAT bus, into the depths of Creekwood. If you could go back and give yourself a little bit of advice, talk to me.
Yeah. So first thing I would say is self-assessment is better than self-confidence. Self-confidence will get you in trouble. Self-confidence will let you do stupid stuff. Self-assessment tells you what you should do. But the most important thing is you just got to get uncomfortable, right? Like if you are living a comfortable life, you're not going to where you're at. The first thing I told myself when I was going to make this change is if I want something I've never had, I've got to do something I've never done.
I love that.
That means like completely shake up what I'm at and get uncomfortable and get scared in what you're doing. And I would just say, bet on yourself when you're doing it, right? Like you don't have to be smart. You don't have to be rich. You just have to be bold. But when you're bold, make bold decisions, but hedge it with common sense. And fortune favors the bold. I mean, the smallest action that you can take is worth so much more than what you want, because we all have the same goals. Everybody wants to be rich, successful, good looking, in good shape, and etc. But wanting it's not going to get it for you. At some point, like you've actually got to go out and take an initiative action that makes you uncomfortable and makes you scared and that you don't know how it's going to turn out, and have a little bit of anticipation that it's going to be bumpy and I'm probably not going to hit it on the first, second, or third try. And if I've got some, whether it's financial reserves or I've got support through a spouse or I've got early coaching, that will help me get through these ugly times. And if I just keep sticking to it and develop a system that works and stick to that system, I will come through at the end of this or early through this, as opposed to just giving up too early. I would have said that a lot earlier. I would have said that when I was like 25 instead of 40 when I did it.
Dude, I know it's, and I feel the same way. I wish it seems like the older you get, the wiser you get is like the dumbest cliche. And it's just so true. It's like, if I knew then what I know now, but one of the biggest things that you said that resonates with me is preparing, taking the action, because you have to be, the Kelly that is going to be doing 25 million a year with a team of LOs underneath them. Who do you have to be to become the guy who does that? And so you've got to do the work to become the Kelly that does 25 million a year. We all have goals. And so we need to become the person that acts like that behaves like that, and that produces like that. And that's where the work comes in. So, I think it's awesome, man. I want to let our audience know where they can find you, how we can support you and follow. We'll keep in touch with you, and hopefully you and I can do some work together for sure. But I want to hold you accountable and challenge you to hit those goals. And you're doing all the right things, man. So you're an inspiration. And anyone who's interested in getting a loan, VA, conventional, or even talking to you about anything mortgage related, I'd love to tell them how they can reach out to you and connect.
Yeah, so I show up in a lot of places, but I show up every day on Facebook. So just simply Kelly Jennings, got picture here. It might be a little older. I might not have a beard and shorter hair. But you can DM me on there. You can comment on a post, and pretty much all of my posts have my phone number on there, and it just goes straight to this phone, which you can call or text me on it.
Awesome. Well, dude, thank you so much for your time today. It's been awesome. I feel like we could probably take a pivot and talk about diving and sharks for a long time, but I want to keep these episodes kind of in line. So we'll do it again sometime soon. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kelly Jennings, thanks for tuning in. This has been the Build Better Blueprint, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Cheers.
That's it, folks. That's our show. Thanks as always for listening. If you enjoyed today's discussion, please leave us a 5-star rating and subscribe to our channel so you are up to date with the latest episodes. Feel free to share with your friends and keep up the great work. You are on the right path. See you at the top.